So let's talk about who you are and what you do.
Sure.
So for those of you listening, we just kind of started talking. We didn't introduce you or anything like this. So why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners who you are and what your business is?
Yeah, appreciate it. So my name is Bill, and my business is the Operational Excellence Shop, or www.theopexshop.com. My focus is to help businesses overcome significant operational challenges. Mm-hmm. And this is where, you've heard me say this before, but I wish I was a plumber, because somebody says, "What do you do?" And you say, "I'm a plumber." And they, "Oh yeah, I know what that is." Right?
That.
Yeah. But it was kind of a strange genesis, kind of how it became. But at the end of the day, the way that I operate is, it would be quick to say consultant, but it's not really a consultant. Mm-hmm. It's more of an interim COO, or Chief Operating Officer. During that time that I'm engaged with an organization, I'm working on helping them pivot or find their way through a challenge. That challenge could be penetrating a new region. It could be overcoming a change in infrastructure, or a change in governance, or something that impact their margins, for example. Mm-hmm. It could be the desire to scale and grow and acquire another company, or maybe they acquired another company and they're having trouble integrating that company, right? It could be any number of things, any number of operational challenges. But where I draw the line is on the operation side. And in my mind, there's the commercial side of the business, mm-hmm. which is sales and marketing, and certainly an area that you play in pretty regularly. And then there's the operational side of the business, which is turning the crank, making the sausage, whatever that is, whether it's a service or a product. So my work is most commonly focused exclusively on the operations side, and I usually come in over a period of time, help navigate through whatever the challenges that we identify. So we go through a formal process of, quote, defining a problem, which is mm-hmm. which is a thing in itself. Once we've defined the problem, it's usually my charge to lead the business through solving that. And in doing so, I initially start out in a pretty forward-facing role in that. And as time goes on, I tend to fade to the back and let the rest of the leadership team, or the person we hired to mm-hmm. be there permanently, or the person that I'm there helping, either way, I fade to the back and let that person come to the front, and then begin to operate within that new infrastructure, that new team that we put in place. So the engagements vary in time, but successful engagements for me with a client have been anywhere from 6 months to 3 years. And I'm proud to say, in the 3-year type engagements, just to be clear, we've solved the first problem within mm-hmm. X number of months. And they said, "Hey, since we've done that, can we build momentum in this direction? Can you help with that kind of thing?" And that turns into a longer term engagement. So yeah, it's kind of a funny way of operating, and it's not something that historically is available to what I would call the mid-sized company, the mm-hmm. company under $100 million in revenue. So what I do is not commonly available. If you're a big company, Fortune 500, or even somewhere between 100 million and Fortune 500, you can pay a lot of money from a big four consultancy to come mm-hmm. in and do some of the work I do, or a specialty consultancy to come in and do the work that I do. But I've made the choice to try and offer this to that 100 million or less. And it seems like the companies that find it most appealing are typically 6 to 10 mil mm-hmm. up to like 90 mil. That seems to be the revenue range of the companies that I operate with. And I think
and those are gross revenues, right? And we're not talking about that's how much money the company's making. That's
no,
just what
it's gross. Exactly. Yeah. So, and that's interesting too, depending on the people that listen to this podcast. So that's gross revenue. That's what mm-hmm. the company earns before anything is taken away from mm-hmm. it, right? Exactly. And it seems as though, and this is a bit of a bold statement, but it seems as though the companies from 10, or like I said, the low end was 6. That's kind of a funny mm-hmm. story, though, or not a funny story, but an interesting story. But typically 10 to like 90 million. Those companies seem to have a different professional presence or maturity than the companies that earn less revenue per year. And hey, I mean, you and I would love to have companies making 5 million in revenue a year. Maybe we do, right? That's a successful thing, and I'm not knocking it. It just seems like there's a more sophisticated, different clientele mm-hmm. in that range that I'm talking about, and that's where my services tend to become appealing. And I think the return on investment is a more easier discussion to have with those guys.
Yeah.